Hello, and welcome back to Behind the Post. I'm so excited to bring on the ultimate customer advocacy expert. She is the Senior Customer Advocacy Manager at Workday and is developing a new customer advocacy engagement program and exploring the intersections of customer advocacy with key customer lifestyle touchpoints. Please welcome to the show, Bev Barnett. Bev, are you ready to go behind the post with me?
Absolutely, Olivia. It's so great to talk to you, and I love talking customer advocacy, so ready to jump in.
Amazing. I'm so excited because we haven't dove into customer advocacy yet on this show. So I'm really excited to hear your insights and learn a little bit more about your journey. So before we dive in, could you please give our listeners a brief look at your professional journey and how you found yourself at Workday?
Absolutely. My career has taken a bit of a twisted path. I started out in PR, so spent really the first part of my career in public relations and then social media. Was really kind of at the beginning of social and loved that. And then took a kind of a weird mid-career break and became a singer-songwriter. I actually recorded 3 CDs with my husband, and we drove around the country, playing small venues and in-house concerts and such. For various reasons, found it not possible to tour anymore. So decided to come back into corporate, my home. And at that point, I had left. I'd been out of PR and social for a while. Things had changed. And I thought, what's really what was the main thing that I loved about that first part of my career? And it was talking to customers. So there was an opportunity that I just couldn't pass up to work directly with customers, telling their stories. And that was the beginning of my stumbling into customer advocacy and customer marketing. And I think that's kind of testimony to a lot of people that are starting out in the world, afraid to make the wrong move, right? And my answer is always just do it. If it calls to you, do it. And if it doesn't work out, do something else.
Yeah.
It's that's the advice I give to my kids, and I think that's something to live by.
Well, I love that piece of advice. And it's something that I've also stuck to in my life, as I used to be a teacher and now I'm a social media manager. So I think that's an incredible piece of advice. So I brought you here today again to speak about customer advocacy. So could you just kind of break it down for us? What is customer advocacy and why is it so important?
It's called by many names: customer marketing, customer advocacy, customer storytelling. And really what we're talking about is the voice of the customers that are the heart of what any organization is trying to communicate, right? Why are we building these products? And if it's not to solve a problem that our customers have. So a lot of people consider customer marketing, customer-based marketing, cross-sell, upsell. There are components of that. There's components of community, and there are components of customer storytelling. So really, it's all of the above, and it depends from organization to organization. It depends on how they're bucketing those aspects of this discipline. Customer advocacy is kind of a newer term, I would say, in the last several years that people have gravitated to, because it's really more indicative of that give and take between us and our customers. So when we talk about customer marketing in this situation, we're talking about marketing our customers. And, that feels a little icky sometimes. But customer advocacy is kind of what a lot of people have gravitated toward, because it does encompass that community and serving our customers and finding those intersections between what's important to them, what the stories are that they want to tell about their own successes, and what the organization is looking to tell about its own path. And putting those together is the Nirvana of making this work, right? Is to find what is the match between what your customers want to say and what you want to say. And that's the magic.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you for breaking that down for me. So if a company does not have a dedicated customer marketing area, or they don't have it built out yet, where should brands start? What is the starting point? How do you kind of take control of customer advocacy?
That's a great question. And so many companies that are kind of getting started, kind of collecting all of their processes and workflows, um, often, especially in marketing, I mean, we're looking at making sure we get our email marketing under control, in our sales enablement under control. We're making sure that that everything's running through Salesforce, and we're documenting campaigns and all of that. And customer marketing and customer advocacy needs to be brought kind of up level to that level of importance to get this under control early. And here's why.
Mhm.
When you're calling on your customers to help with reference calls, with doing case studies, with going out and speaking on your behalf, documenting that early is so important, because not only it allows you to kind of to measure and see what's happening in your own organization, but you're going to need to know that later on. You need to keep track of who's done what, because over asking, right, is the perfect storm of a customer back to saying, back off, I've done enough
Mhm.
for you.
Yeah.
Or what can also happen is, if you're not documenting and communicating that with account teams, right? If it's a marketing silo, and well, this is my customer, and they're willing to do all of these things. We're so excited about working with them, and then their leadership is in a renewal conversation with your sales team, and they say, well, I'm not so sure about uplift this year, because look at everything we've done for you. So you need to be documenting and sharing that information across the organization early on, even if you think you're too small, even if you think you can keep it in your email or on a spreadsheet. It's not going to be that way years from now. And just working with small organizations through my career, and large organizations, and large organizations that are acquiring smaller organizations, trust me, the sooner you get behind this, the better you're going to be in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You want to be organized, and you want everyone to be on the same page. And I've had experiences with this outside of Oktopost. I do some influencer marketing things, and I've had brands reach out to me to work on a campaign that I've already been invited to and currently working on. And it just doesn't make you feel great at the end of the day. So I can totally
Yeah.
understand how customers would feel if the same thing is happening to them. But I want to tie this back into social a little bit here, because I know you do have experience in social, which I love. So for any of the social media managers tuning in here, how has social media kind of changed the way that we approach customer advocacy?
Well, social has changed the way we approach so many things in marketing.
Yeah.
And the customer storytelling of years ago was the case study, was the PDF case study. And then of course, everything is digital. A lot of organizations are not even doing PDFs anymore. Everything is designed to be digital, so it can be shared, right? That's the lead gen magnet, right? Is to pull people back into the content that you're making available on your own properties.
Mm-hmm.
So and we know shorter is better. Snippets are great. So a best practice from a customer storytelling standpoint is always to get the big picture, but be thinking, as you're interviewing customer, as you're working with them, be thinking smaller, right? Get all the information you need, whether it's in a video interview or an audio sourcing interview for a written piece. Make sure that you're always thinking about how I can capture that into a snippet that can be used on social. What are the quotes that I'm going to be able to pull out of this piece and have approved, right? So that they can be used in the future. How can I make sure that those quotes are meaningful, but broad enough so that they can be used in future assets, both campaign assets and social assets, without having to go back to the customer every single time? because ultimately what we're trying to do is make their job of helping us easier, right? Our job is to make their job easier. And
Mhm.
so if we're thinking ahead into those snippets, we're much better off. And when you're doing a video interview, make sure that that there are places you can cut those snippets out, that you can ask if you're interviewing 3 different customers over the next few months, ask them each the same question, so that you can pull those snippets into a montage and say, these 3 customers have answered this in the same way. So
Mhm.
it's really just thinking ahead on how we can use our customer content in that snackable way.
Okay, interesting. Because, as myself as a social media manager, I'm not the one directly speaking to our customers, and I'm not the one, asking for case studies and things like that. So this needs to be something that the social media manager kind of communicates before all of this happens. So case studies, video testimonials, and things like that are formatted in a way where they can be used and grabbed and put on social.
Absolutely. It's getting in front of the potential issue, right? And solving it before it happens, so
Mhm.
that you have the assets that you need to work with.
Mhm. Amazing. Thank you. So I next want to talk a little bit about community here, as customer advocacy also ties into community. And we all know community is not about the product, it's about the people, similar to customer advocacy. So I would love to hear a little bit about your thoughts and insights about community and customer advocacy.
Community is they go hand in hand. First of all, um, I was on the phone with a customer several months ago about her experience in conducting reference calls, and she said, the number one question, the first question that I'm asked when I get on a reference call is, how is your group defined? Have you organized your department? So it's not, the first question isn't about the product. It's about, can we just connect with each other? Can I understand? Can we do some best practices sharing?
Mhm.
And that's what customers want. And that's the community contact that they want. And so that becomes, when I talked before about what's that give and get, what are they interested in and what do we need? Putting those customers together, facilitating through, whether it's a formal community or an informal formal way of matching them to connect with each other. That's what is feeding the engine of customer advocacy.
Mhm.
And in many organizations, especially many small and medium organizations, community and advocacy kind of come together in in a platform where they're kind of interchangeable, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's ultimately the way that we're going to be able to connect with customers, connect with each other, and us connect with them. It has to be kind of this multi-dimensional connection.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's always important, especially when we talk about community, is to kind of remove the product from it a little bit. Because at the end of the day, like, community is about connecting and learning from each other. So I feel like when you take the product out and start facilitating and letting your community almost take control and ask questions and facilitate that conversation, that's kind of where the magic happens.
Absolutely. And they customers, when you put them together, they get so excited. They will often come up with all kinds of content, what we would, call content or turn into content that we may not have even thought of.
Mhm.
It's such a rich um, source for us to tap into. And then they get excited too. I mean, that excitement kind of feeds on each other. They're excited about being able to contribute in that way and knowing that their ideas are generating larger ideas.
Yeah.
And it's I think back to several years ago, I was working with a educational software company that was building an app for an iPad, and we built a community around that as our, really that was the driving force behind our digital campaigns, was to have this community, and it was all done on social. It wasn't even a formal place where we had them come and talk to each other, it was on Twitter, it was hosting Twitter chats, it was on LinkedIn, it was, it was in the places that they already were, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that. Could we dive into that a little more here? Because I think this is a really interesting topic. And I've been talking to a few of my other social media manager friends about this, is how do you create that community when you don't have a formal defined group where they go? So could you speak kind of about that, creating it on Twitter and LinkedIn and things like
Sure.
that?
Sure. And well, I think that, social media managers are all about meeting people where they are, right? Where are people already congregating? And in this situation, I mean, teachers were gravitating to Twitter to connect with each other. And so that was a natural place for this situation. But it might even be a Facebook group for somebody else. And for a lot of people, it is LinkedIn groups. But the tenets are the same, right? Which is to let customers lead what they want to talk about. Listen first. Make sure that you're kind of prompting things to move along, but not getting in the way of the conversation. And always starting with what is it that the organization is interested in, but adjusting that to what the customer is interested in. And that's a delicate balance, and it's hard to do sometimes when you're hammered with KPIs. But sometimes you can say, okay, let's look at the big picture of what we're trying to say and listen to what the customers are saying. And again, I was talking about that matching. It's always about matching, and that comes from my early days of doing PR interviews, where I'm sitting in an interview and with an executive that he's got his talking points, and I'm talking and sitting with the reporter who wants to get the story, and kind of watching that interchange. And the more we can teach ourselves to sit back and look with and listen with that viewpoint, the better we are going to be at making that magic happen, right? The intersection between what we want and what the customer wants, and how do we make that happen.
Wow. Wow. Incredible insight. I love that. Taking a step back. That's great advice. Wow. This is such a great episode. I'm so excited to share this with the world, and we're nearing the end here. And I have one final question to wrap up the show. And that is, what is one thing you wish everyone knew about customer advocacy?
I'm going to say it's not about you. The thing about the one thing about customer advocacy is it is about the customer.
Yeah.
And it seems obvious, but it's something that a lot of people overlook. It's, when I need to close a deal because I need this customer to talk to that customer, that's hard, but you've got to step back and realize that customers are people. They have their own things going on in their lives like everybody else, and just respecting their time and space, and respecting their no is means you're going to live to work with them another day.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, yeah, it sounds simple, but I think it's something that we forget. We're so ingrained in what our to-do list and all of the things we're trying to check off the box, that sometimes we forget that when it comes to the customer, it's not about us, and there's boundaries, and they're people just like us. So yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Behind the Post. I absolutely loved having you on the show, and I'm so excited to share this episode with the world. So thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It was great fun, and I look forward to listening to more episodes.